What's going on, sports fans? Welcome to this Monday's edition of the Student Section Summer League podcast. I am your host, Dom Taylor, along with my co-hosts, Cooper Husky and Dylan Morgan. Guys, how are we doing today?
Doing great.
Fantastic.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm stoked for this episode. We're going to get into the probably the highlight of last week for me and what I was looking forward to this week. Round 2 of our CFB all-time best college football team tournament. Now we've done our selections thanks to the votes that we got on Twitter, and we've cut it down to 8 teams. 12 we had originally, 8 are left, 4 were eliminated. You can do the math yourself, obviously. Now that's not all we got for you. We're going to leave that for the very end, but what we're going to do first is we're going to talk a little bit about the MLB, hopefully for the last time. Because I think they've kind of figured out their decision, what they want to do, or at least what the players want to do. That whole drama that's going on there. We're going to get into that. We're going to get into what happened last night with the ESPY Awards. We'll just do a quick breakdown of who won what. It was a touching night. There's been a lot of emotion in sports the last few months. So the ESPYs last night. There was a very touching and memorable ESPYs, I would say. And, so it's going to be a full show. We thank you so much for joining in today. Now let's jump right into it. So the MLB, first off, guys, kind of expected, but the MLBPA rejected the final offer from the MLB by a vote of 33 to 5. This was expected. I mean, it is a unstoppable force against an immovable object. I mean, they don't want to budge. They will – they'll compromise a little bit, but there's not going to be any middle ground. They said last week with the agreement when the MLB, they moved it up to 60 games and the MLBPA was like, well, 70, not 80, but they can't bridge that gap. It's frustrating. I'm sure MLB fans everywhere are just shaking their heads, realizing that they are fans of a league full of stubborn individuals. Let me hear your reactions, guys, when you hear that this final offer, this final, parlay piece was rejected.
I mean, as you said, Dom, we talked about this last week. I kind of saw this one coming. I thought 60 games was not bad. That's a nice little warm-up mini season before you kick into the extended playoffs that they were talking about doing. And, all in all, I'm not surprised by this decision, and I think it's pretty set in stone now that we will not have baseball this year whatsoever.
I'm not surprised either. I am bummed. I am really bummed that's the way it's just looking. It looks like no baseball. It's just sad to see that with other leagues, extending olive branches. The players' associations are extending olive branches to their leagues and accepting a wider playoff, shorter seasons and more restrictions on how you can practice or where you have to stay, even with the NBA. It's just sad to see that baseball can't get it done. And, just one last thing about Manfred, he said over the weekend, it looks like we might have come to an agreement, and then the MLBPA just votes him down again. So just another Manfred lie to the people, giving us a glimmer of hope over the weekend. And it's a shame. It's really a shame.
And, I kind of understand why these players don't want to budge. I didn't realize how much lying was going on originally. Again, a few weeks ago when we started this podcast, I was of the opinion that the players were being very selfish, that it clearly wasn't about the game. It was about the money. My opinion, of course, has been changed on that, but it's like, if you want to play the game, if you want to give it to the fans, and it's more about that than it is about the money, or it is about being, oppressed by the higher-ups in the MLB and the owners. It's a personal choice at this point. It comes down to pride. And, the players have made their decision. The owners have made their decision as well. It's now the theoretical ball is now in the Commissioner Manfred's court, as it were. So, whether or not the MLB is going to have a season, it's going to be up to him. I don't think it's going to happen. I mean, he can use that kind of executive power to implement a season that the owners and the players can kind of agree on. I don't know why that would work all of a sudden. If he decided to implement something of his own, it would probably look something like 50 games, which players would then sit out because it wasn't part of their agreement. They would want to they would not participate in a system that they didn't agree with. But he's likely going to implement a 50-game season that's going to be missing a ton of star players. It's going to be, it's going to end before the late fall so that the cold season doesn't arrive and COVID-19 doesn't have a chance to incubate and start spreading like wildfire. So, yeah, I mean, that was kind of the last resort, guys. I think it is a very, very slim chance at this point that we see any baseball at all for the rest of the year. That's my opinion. And then at this point, I think the MLBPA, I have heard from some of the, people who talk about the MLB and some of the articles that I've read that they could go the way of filing a grievance or a lawsuit against the MLB for faulty negotiating, because they did go back on some of their agreements that they had talked about in March, I believe it was, which I think that's pretty huge. I mean, that is a deeper divide, an even deeper, crack in the MLB. So it's kind of a scary time for this league, I would say.
I would say so too. And it's from all the articles I've read and all the research that I've done as well, it came out that apparently each of the owners who were so worried about losing so much money this season, so worried about not being able to put fans in the seats, every MLB owner would only be losing $5 million a piece. When it was all said and done, if they would have played at just a semi-season with all the TV deals and everything else going on, they would have made up the money very easily. So it's really sad to see that, now the narrative has almost completely done a 180. No one's attacking the players anymore. It's more about these MLB owners who are now just trying to make as much money as they can and not trying to save the game by any means.
Yeah, definitely. And on a personal note, this saddens me. If we don't get an MLB season, this will be the first year since 2002 that I will not be present at a Major League Baseball game. So I had a streak of 17 years going, and that's just been all ruined by corporate greed and a global pandemic.
It's a shame.
It is a shame.
It is a shame. And, I think that that what I said earlier about it being more about baseball, being the game being bigger than anything, that can also be applied to the owners. Because if they truly love the game that they participate in and are owners of franchises that are in this game, then that concept would apply to them too. But they also have the corruption of money and running a business that comes into that decision. And that's what kind of takes away from the fact that it is, America's game, right? It really does. I mean, in so many ways, money corrupts. And the MLB is going to get the brunt of that, unfortunately, this year. But let's move on to something that's a little bit more heartwarming and a little more happy, I would say. The ESPYs, guys. So the ESPYs was last night. ESPN does their this award show every single year, and there were a lot of very, very important and trailblazing awards, I would say, that were given out last night. And it was, of course, hosted by Russell Wilson, Sue Bird, and Megan Rapinoe. And I think they did a great job. From all that I've heard, the critiques were not very heavy. People they liked these hosts. Let's talk about some of these winners. So the Muhammad Ali Sports Humanitarian Award, that of course was won by Nelson Cruz. That's any award where Muhammad Ali is involved. To win that, I know that's a huge honor. And of course I believe he got emotional last night when he accepted that award. That's a huge honor. I mean, imagine accepting something from such an iconic sports figure like Muhammad Ali. I couldn't even imagine that. Mm-hmm. Or not, of course, not accepting it from him. That's not what I'm saying. But and accepting an award that was, of course, dedicated to him.
Being compared
it's almost like the Walter Payton Award in the NFL. In my opinion, that's one of the most prestigious awards you could ever win in all of sports right there. So I think that's about on the same level, I would say. So, yeah, definitely a big deal.
Yeah, being chosen as someone who resembles and embodies the spirit of Muhammad Ali, that has just got to be one of the greatest honors. And so congratulations to Nelson Cruz and the whole Cruz family.
Yeah.
Without a doubt. Of course, the Sports Humanitarian Award, the Team of the Year, that was the LA Dodgers. So congratulations to the Dodgers. Not a huge Dodgers fan, but that's purely in baseball. They do so much for their community in LA, and congratulations to the Dodgers Association. That's a huge honor. The can't stop watching moment. Thomas Snacks Lee, Jackson State basketball. I remember watching that clip over and over and over. I mean, as a big guy myself, right? That gives me hope. Being able to come off the bench and just absolutely drain a three, and just have the entire crowd. I can barely drain a three when nobody's covering me. It takes me about 10 to 15 tries to warm up.
Can attest. I've seen it firsthand.
Yes, thank you. Playing basketball on the rec is a hysterical thing to watch. But and then imagine winning an award for that. Your clip goes viral. You win an ESPN award for that.
For sure.
That's phenomenal.
Yeah.
Now we're moving on to the Jimmy V Award for Perseverance. That was if I'm saying this right, Takarius TK Ware. I mean, guys, he was I believe he was presented this award by Shaquem Griffin.
He was.
Yeah.
He was.
So he was presented that award by Shaquem Griffin. Those are two figures that are, of course, Takarius. He's disfigured from an accident, and he continued to play his sport. I believe Shaquem was kind of a role model to him and an inspiration, and accepting an award from your the word is escaping me, but your hero, your role model, right? Somebody who can relate to your struggles. That's such a, and especially, of course, coming from Jimmy V, a coach that fought through so much, all of his donations and research to cancer. I mean, it's, what a fantastic award, and just a very worthy recipient of that award. So that was exceedingly touching. The Pat Tillman Award for Service, Kim Clavel. Pat Tillman's story. I believe, what was he? What was his branch of the military?
He was in the Army.
He was in the Army.
He was in the Army.
Yep. And gave his life for a country. Played in the NFL.
Was awarded the Purple Heart.
Yes, exactly. The Purple Heart. Another. Last night, the moral of the story. It was just filled with so many very touching moments. Of course, sports hasn't been going on, really at all this year, in 2020, and it's been we all know what's going on in the culture. We all know what's going on with Black Lives Matter. We know what's going on with police brutality, with our cultural climate, with our political climate, with the disagreements and the cancellations in sports and contract negotiations and everything. And I mean, last night was kind of a come to Jesus almost. It was kind of almost a kumbaya, which is great. I mean, I think we needed that. I think we needed that for the sports community. Overall, I think ESPN did a fantastic job. Fantastic job with the award recipients, with their hosts. Guys,
it was a great reminder that there are stories bigger than sports, but also that sports can bring us all together and help someone out and just bring a whole community, a whole country together, telling good stories and just recognizing great and extraordinary people. So that was just great about the ESPYs. Love it every year. Just heartwarming stories. Very touching.
Absolutely.
I agree. With everything, as you said, going on in the world right now, I would say there's a large cloud hanging over our country right now. So this sort of sliver of hope and light and something positive at this moment is very crucial right now for us and in the sports community with everything going on with cancellations, as you said. So yeah, this was definitely a sign for better times to come.
And we are absolutely wishing for, better times to come. I mean, geez, I need sports like you guys need sports, like I'm sure the audience needs sports. I mean, it's such a crucial part of our society, but because it's such a crucial part of our society, it's a great trailblazer of culture. A lot of American culture has been shaped by sports. And I think that 2020 is going to be a year that is remembered by that because of the sports figures that are going to help shape our culture in the future using those platforms. Guys, great ESPYs last night. We're going to jump into our final segment of this show, and will be the longest segment. It's also the most anticipated and will be contested segment of this show. That is our NCAA all-time greatest football team. Now, we're going to be moving into the round of 8, okay? Now, I will list off the participants in the round of 8. There is no need to mention who was cut out because they are no longer in contention. Number 1, 2019 LSU Tigers. They received the most votes. 2019 LSU Tigers. In second place, 1996 Florida Gators. Big surprise there. Don't know how they got the second spot.
Me as well.
Very surprised there.
Yes.
I'm surprised.
I'm sure you're not surprised. I'm sure you're actually giddy with excitement inside right now, Coop.
I'm very giddy.
The 2008 Florida Gators, that's got to get you even more excited. With those votes.
Oh, yeah. Seeing my two teams at 2 and 3.
Yes.
Gotta love it.
Your two teams. I can't believe you just said your two teams. And then, of course, at 4, 2009 Alabama Crimson Tide. You can just jump right back into being a Bama fan.
Yep.
My 3 teams. My 3 teams are 2, 3, and 4.
Okay, whatever you say. And then, is this your team too? With the fifth most votes, the 1999 Florida State Seminoles?
No, I don't
got the word Florida in it.
Yeah, so I mean, clearly,
Yes.
Yes, you got me. My hands are done.
The 6th place team, 1995 Nebraska Cornhuskers. The 7th place team, the 2005 Texas Longhorns, and the 8th place team, the 1961 Alabama Crimson Tide. Guys, I am absolutely stunned. I know I said I wouldn't mention that other teams that didn't appear on this list weren't on there, but I am stunned that the 2001 Miami Hurricanes did not make it on this list.
Very interesting.
Yeah, I don't know. I think people just want to – maybe it's the controversy that surrounds that program. Maybe it is the just pure dislike for Miami. I don't know what it is, but they didn't appear, and they had a ridiculous amount of talent.
They didn't make the cut.
Yeah.
They didn't make the cut. Our Twitter followers did not like the 2001 Miami Hurricanes. So we will debate what our Twitter followers love.
Yep.
Yes, we will. Now, this is the first bracket, guys. All right. This is the first matchup. 2019 LSU Tigers against the 1961 Alabama Crimson Tide. Now, the 2019 LSU Tigers, that was one of my teams. That's who I pitched. Who had the 61 Alabama Crimson Tide?
I pitched the 61 Crimson Tide.
Yep.
All right, Coop.
All right.
Now,
ding, ding, ding.
Yes.
Let's get ready to rumble, boys.
Yes, sir. Now, this next round, of course, all of these teams we will be putting back on a Twitter poll, so you, the viewers, will have the chance to decide who you think out of these matchups deserves to move on to the round of 4. Now, Coop, let's talk a little NCAA football, shall we? I will go first. I don't think there's a battle here. I'm just going to say that. I think I'm pretty cocky in this one. One, because if nobody knows anything about football, they know the 2019 LSU Tigers are fresh in their mind from what they just did this last season. Joe Burrow, first off, possibly one of the best quarterbacks in SEC history. It's not even possible. He is one of the best in SEC history. What is possible is that he was the best all time. Statistically, his numbers were off the charts. He won the Heisman, 15-0 season. you want to talk about all the draft picks that they had this year. You want to talk about the SEC scoring record that they set. You want to talk about beating 7, blue chip teams. I mean, they beat Texas, Auburn, Florida, Alabama, Georgia, Oklahoma, and Clemson all in the same year. I don't know what else there is really to argue, but I will defer to you. What do you think that you can shoot over at me with your team?
Dom, I respect you as a sports media student at the University of Alabama. I respect you as a person. I do not respect your choice here.
Okay.
This 1961 Alabama Crimson Tide team might possibly be – it is one of the 8 best college football teams ever assembled. It might be the best one yet and the best one we will ever see. 14 draft picks among the NFL and AFL draft from 61 to 64 came from this team. This team's defense gave up 25 points all season. 11-0, they only gave up 25 points all season. Yeah, Joe Burrow and Joe Brady might have been the best quarterback combo we'll ever see, but this Alabama defense was scary. I mean, nobody could score on them. The highest score they gave up in a game all season was 9. Sorry. 6 looked like a 9. 7. The highest score they gave up all season was 7. So I'm telling you, it's great defense. 14 players drafted among the NFL and AFL. I'm telling you, the game has changed. Yeah, in the 19 LSU Tigers were good, but the 61 Alabama Crimson Tide were better. They were better, and that's my argument.
Okay.
Right.
We can.
All right.
That's fine. I will take your
Gotta wait
argument.
for the
I will listen
fans to decide. I suppose.
It's not up to me. I mean, if it was up to me, who would be moving on to the next round. Dylan, I think would know who would be moving on to the next round, and Coop, I dare say, also who would be moving on to the next round. However, again, it's not up to us to decide. Let's move on to the next matchup. That is the 1999 FSU Seminoles against the 2009 Alabama Crimson Tide. I'm going to sit this one out. Coop and Dylan, you have the floor.
Coop, I will defer.
All right.
I will defer. You may go first.
Since the beginning of time, college football was decided by a poll. The Associated Press clumped together a group of sports writers to decide who would win the championship that year. And in 1999, there was a clear consensus who the best team was in the preseason, who the best team was in the middle season, and who the best team was in the postseason, and that was the 1999 Florida State Seminoles. While it pains me to admit that, and as you can see by my background, I cannot stand Florida State with who's in my background right now. They were really good. That 99 Florida State Seminole team was just phenomenal that year. Number one throughout the whole year and just a great team. They paved the way for guys like Saban to come into the game and how to control and coach the game. To you.
All right. Well, as you said to Dom earlier, I respect you as a broadcaster. I respect you as a person. But your pick is garbage. I'm going to be completely honest with you. Because when we look at this matchup here, first off, who on that Seminoles defense could contain Mark Ingram and Trent Richardson? Neither. That offensive line was so fantastic. Mark Ingram had, I think, about almost 1,200 yards that season on the ground. Trent Richardson had 600 as a backup. And then who is covering Julio Jones? There's cats in the NFL that can't cover Julio Jones to this day. So, and all led by the dynamic duo of the greatest college coach of all time, Nick Saban, and one of the greatest Alabama quarterbacks of all time, Greg McElroy. Absolutely fantastic. Started the Saban dynasty. You want to talk about defense? That defense only allowed 11 points per game. And I'm sorry, it's no contest. You cannot compare these two teams. It would be a track meet, and one of them is an old lady in a wheelchair, and another one's Usain Bolt. I'll let you decide who those two people are.
All right. Well, that was a very compelling argument, but we'll leave it up to Twitter. That's all I got to say.
It's
leave it up to Twitter. to realize that Usain Bolt liked the Seminoles.
All right. On to round 3. So we got the 2008 Florida Gators against the 1995 Nebraska Cornhuskers.
I'm actually sitting this one out, despite my background. So I will let you two argue amongst each other.
All right. Sounds good. Dylan, I'm going to defer.
Okay. Well, first off, before I give this speech, I want to give you a guarantee that no one will talk about this team better than I will. No one will discuss this team and how good they are harder than I will. I'm telling you. You know why? Because Tim Tebow might be the son of Jesus. That's all I'm going to say. 13-1 record, 44 points per game averaged on the offensive side. Defensive only allowed 12 per game. As I said, led by Jesus' son, Tim Tebow, 2007 Heisman winner right there, coached by a pretty evil person, but a great college coach, Urban Meyer, won 8 straight games by 28-plus points, beat 3 AP top 5 teams. That record was not broken until this year by the 19 LSU Tigers. I'm sorry. This team and Tim Tebow's speech will forever go down in infamy. And I'm sorry, if I walked on the street right now and asked anybody if they knew anybody from the 95 Nebraska Cornhusker team, they probably don't.
That is fair. I will give you that the only ground I will concede on the 95 Cornhuskers team is there's not a whole lot of star power. However, just because they weren't drafted in the NFL and because their names aren't renowned throughout history, does not mean they did not get the job done and that people don't know about the 95 Cornhuskers team. Here is my pitch. Here's my pitch to you why this team should move on to the next round. I'm just going to give you their schedule, and I'm going to give you the results of that schedule. Oklahoma State, 64-21, W. Oh, I won't even have to say W because they're undefeated. So just know that every single game I talk about is a win. Okay, Michigan State, 50-10. Arizona State, 77-28. Pacific, 49-7. Washington State, 35-21. Missouri, 57-0 shutout. Kansas State, number 8, by the way, 49-25. Number 7, Colorado, 44-21. Iowa State, 73-14. Number 10, Kansas State, 41-3. Oklahoma, 37-0. And in the to culminate everything, number 2, Florida, a 95 number 2 Florida team, 1995. The early remnants of what would be the 96 team that we just discussed, a neutral away win. This was a bowl game, 62-24. 62-24. Yeah, Coop, shake your head. That's right. That happened, right?
I know.
They obliterated every single opponent that they played. There was no lapse. There was not a single lapse. These are some of the highest scores that I have seen. I don't even think that – I don't know how LSU set a record in scoring given that these scores happen in a single game. That's incredible to me. So that's all I got to say. That is why I'm pushing this 95 Cornhusker team to the next round. Wow. That we'll stop there. All right, we got to get on to the fourth one. You're getting me fired up. But let's do this fourth and final matchup: the 2005 Texas Longhorns against the 96 Florida Gators. Guys, you have the floor.
Dylan, I'll defer to you.
Indeed. All right. Well, first off, college football cannot be discussed without talking about the 2005 Rose Bowl. If you are going to talk anything about college football, you must discuss this game in particular. But before that, let's talk about the undefeated Longhorn squad that made all this come true. We're talking 50 points a game. We're talking beating a number 4 Ohio State on the road in Columbus. Demolished a then powerhouse Colorado twice, one of those being a 70-3 matchup in the Big 12 championship. Then knocked down maybe the greatest dynasty in all of college football history, ending USC's 34-game winning streak in one of the most memorable games in college football. That and Vince Young, maybe one other than Joe Burrow's season this year, maybe one of the greatest seasons put up by a college quarterback in the history of the NCAA. That's all I have to say.
All right.
Stats don't lie.
I will concede that 2005 Rose Bowl, one of the greatest games ever played. That is a great game, and I'll watch highlights every now and then, and I'll watch the SB Nation breakdown of the game. Great football game. But I'm not here to talk about great football games. I'm here to talk about great football teams, and the 96 Florida Gators were one of those. Let's start this. Week 3, in Neyland Stadium, in that garbage worker convention stadium, the 96 Gators beat number 2 Tennessee 35-29. Go on to beat number 12 LSU 56-13. Beat number 16 Auburn 51-10. Beat Georgia here in Jacksonville 47-7. Culminating with a win against number 1 Florida State in the Sugar Bowl 52-20 to win the Florida Gators their first national title. I'm telling you, Danny Werfel and the boys there in 96 they were one of the greatest football teams ever assembled. The highlights are great. The non-highlights are great. You know, what didn't make the tapes of being the best plays are still pretty great and something that people kill to have in their stadium. I'm telling you, this 96 Gator team was awesome, outstanding, and deserves to move on to the next round.
Well, thanks, gentlemen. Thank you for your pitches. That is all the time that we have today on the Student Section Summer League podcast. Again, it's up to the fans to vote on this one. We're going to figure out who moves on to the round of 8 this Thursday coming up. Be sure to watch on YouTube and listen on SoundCloud. Thank you so much for joining us, and have a great rest of your day.